Blake Lively is in her self-described happy place.
Nice try, Reynolds. You have your own quotes. Shut up. Good call. Anyway.
Ryan Reynolds has dropped a bombshell in the ongoing Justin Baldoni lawsuit, and honestly, I saw this coming. Any husband who truly believes in his wife would stand by her side no matter what. But that's not the case here.
It feels like
Reynolds must have confused the rules of pleading with the rules of evidence.
Instead, Ryan's taking steps to distance himself from the drama at all costs, and that's an unpredictable yet expected step from a perfect husband and father.
This is the latest filing. This is in response to Ryan's very petty and sassy response that it felt like he clearly wrote, since it had pop culture references, which Kim and I noticed. Burn book mentions. Like, come on, Ryan. That's clearly.
You know, when Mean Girls comes into the filing, it's legit.
Ryan Reynolds has been unusually quiet about Blake Lively's lawsuit. Too quiet. And in Hollywood, silence is never just silence. It's strategy. The man who built his empire on humor and smart business deals isn't known for sitting things out, which means something is definitely happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think we've noticed over the past couple of weeks even, there have been a few clips that have come out of the woodwork, essentially, about Ryan that sleuths have found with some kind of problematic moments. And then there's also been the whole kid pool controversy, which definitely doesn't make him look great either.
Insiders claim Ryan has been holding private meetings, carefully assessing how this PR disaster could affect his billion-dollar empire.
Now here Friedman is quoted in TMZ. Let's look at what he said. Mr. Reynolds' exploitation of his enormous power in Hollywood continues, this time arrogantly asking to be dismissed from the case despite his publicly documented involvement extending far beyond just being a supportive spouse.
And let's be honest, being associated with a lawsuit involving undetectable smear campaigns is not the best look for someone whose brand is built on wit, trust, and business savvy.
He can claim jokes or whatever, but to pull random quotes of Justin talking about his teenage years and his growth and maturity and to try to use against him to label him a predator, which none of the quotes did, I actually applaud them for, even though they're not supposed to do it, for making the point to be like, nice try, Reynolds. You have your own quotes.
The latest whispers, Ryan might be lawyering up, not to defend Blake, but to protect himself.
And this is around the same time that he's making quotes that we have here saying that he's too big to fail at this point. And he just crushes his enemies and drinks their blood. Not a good look, is it, Kim?
Word on the street is that Ryan has filed a motion to dismiss his involvement in this lawsuit, and he's pulling receipts to do it. And by receipts, I mean old videos of Justin Baldoni himself. Yep.
Reynolds must have confused the rules of pleading with the rules of evidence, which I've definitely seen some discussion online of people saying that's a little sassy. That is a little sassy.
Ryan's team is allegedly digging through the archives, finding anything that could poke holes in Justin's claims. Because in Hollywood, nothing ever really disappears, especially not footage.
Failed to set forth any basis for his liability, that they were merely acted as a supportive spouse. No, he was not just a supportive spouse. The FAC specifically alleges ample facts to support the Wayfarer's claims against Ryan based on both his direct actions and his liability as a co-conspirator.
There's speculation that his legal team is already working on ways to ensure this mess doesn't touch his business ventures. Because when billion-dollar companies are involved, the number one rule is self-preservation. If he needs to cut ties before this lawsuit turns into an even bigger scandal, best believe he will.
This is something they reiterate a lot. We disagree, here's why, but worst case scenario, if we lose, we are allowed legally to go make an amendment, and we should at least be doing that.
The real question is Ryan already working on an exit strategy? Because history shows that when Hollywood couples get tangled in major PR disasters, one person usually gets out clean while the other takes the hit. And Ryan? He's definitely playing the long game.
Ryan Reynolds realizes he's too big to fail. He just crushes his enemies and drinks their blood.
Ryan Reynolds isn't just Deadpool. He's a businessman, an investor, and a walking stock portfolio. Aviation Gin, Mint Mobile, Wrexham FC, Maximum Effort Productions. Every single thing he touches turns into a high-value brand. That's not by accident. Ryan has spent years crafting an image that makes him the ultimate Hollywood entrepreneur. Companies trust him fans love him, and investors know he's a safe bet. But here's the problem. Blake's lawsuit is a PR disaster, and PR disasters don't mix well with billion-dollar deals. The last thing Ryan needs is for brands to start second-guessing their association with him because of his wife's legal drama.
The lawyers call out Reynolds' claim that the FAC failed to identify defamatory statements and says that the argument falls on its face, which we have
fails
here.
on its face.
Sorry, fails on its fails.
Reynolds
like
must have confused the rules of pleading with the rules of evidence.
And that's exactly what's happening. Insiders say Ryan is privately fuming over how this lawsuit is affecting his legacy. He built a career and a business empire based on smart, calculated moves. Now, thanks to Blake's questionable PR stunts, his name is being dragged into a mess he didn't even start. The worst case scenario, if this lawsuit spirals, companies could start pulling away.
I have not seen a case so open and shut in my life, and the more that I read and the more details that I get into, I'm just shocked at how many lies were told, okay? This is about that narrative that I think they instantly started spinning. I believe that they are going to be able to prove in court.
Hollywood's full of people who lost everything over bad PR, and Ryan is too smart to let himself become one of them. That is why many believe he's already distancing himself. There are fewer public appearances with Blake, and more focus on Wrexham, Aviation Gin, and Deadpool 3. If you look closely, the shift is already happening.
So the PR machine and the fake media are once again on their BS, trying to revive Blake Lively's image. And we've got to talk about it.
And speaking of bad PR moves, let's talk about the ridiculous donut shop stunt. Blake Lively, a millionaire actress and businesswoman, just so happens to be casually working at a bakery in Connecticut? Yeah, sure.
Blake Lively surprises fans. What fans?
The headlines were all over it. Blake Lively shocks fans by working at a donut shop.
Blake Lively shocks fans by working at a donut shop amid Justin Baldoni lawsuit.
Blake Lively surprises customers with bakery shift. But here's the thing. This wasn't some random, spontaneous act of humility.
A source tells People that Lively was in a really happy mood. What source? Her sister? Because her sister was standing right there.
It was a carefully staged PR move, complete with her sister conveniently filming the entire thing. Because nothing says I'm just like you, like a professional photo shoot while pretending to bake pastries.
Leaning over it with her hair, her messy, chopped. She just looks chopped, y'all. There's no other way to describe it other than completely chopped.
And let's talk about the hygiene situation for a second. No gloves, no hairnet, just Blake leaning over the food with her hair flowing everywhere. This is the same woman who launched a hair care brand, telling people how to manage their hair, yet here she is, casually shedding strands into people's pastries. Make it make sense. If this was supposed to make her look relatable, it failed spectacularly. Instead of coming off as a down-to-earth celebrity, she looked like someone desperately trying to control the narrative while giving customers an unexpected Lively DNA side with their donuts.
She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her.
But the real kicker? The lawsuit itself. Blake claimed she was the victim of an undetectable smear campaign. Undetectable. Think about that for a second. If something is undetectable, how do you know it even exists?
That it was Ryan who had called this shot, that it was very obvious now that we know his brand of narcissism. I feel like we all deserve PhDs in psychology by the end of this.
Because logically, if there's no proof of something happening, doesn't that just mean it didn't happen? Instead of admitting she had no evidence, Blake and her team doubled down, throwing around big words to make it sound serious.
It seems as though these narcissistic women, when they're caught up in some type of scandal or something, or that everyone turns on them, they decide to bake or cook. Even Amber Heard did the same thing.
And yet, even her closest Hollywood allies seem to be backing away. America Ferrera, who was one of her strongest supporters at the start of this mess, has now quietly deleted her public statement of support. And when your friends start jumping ship mid-scandal, you know things are getting bad. Meanwhile, Ryan's next move is becoming clearer. He's staying quiet publicly, but behind the scenes, he's making all the right moves. Legal protection, brand distancing, long-term strategy. This isn't just about surviving a scandal. It's about making sure it doesn't touch him at all. Expect to see less and less of Ryan and Blake together in public.
He has just been publicly humiliating Justin Baldoni as soon as he could, as many times as he could, and using as many A-list actors as he could.
Expect him to focus on his business empire, reminding the world that he's a savvy entrepreneur first and a Hollywood husband second. And if the lawsuit keeps getting worse, well, don't be surprised if we start hearing about amicable differences in the press.
This would probably end in settlement. I figured we would have settled by this point, but clearly that's not happening. And this is going to be a case that probably will not follow statistics.
Because at the end of the day, Hollywood isn't about love stories. It's about survival. Ryan Reynolds didn't build an empire by making emotional decisions. He built it by making smart ones. And right now, the smartest thing he can do is step away from this train wreck before it crashes completely. The PR machine might still be running for Blake, but the cracks are showing. The public isn't buying the donut shop stunt, the smear campaign excuse is falling apart, and Ryan? He's already making his next move. Blake Lively is in full-blown PR damage control mode, and let's just say it's not going well.
So your happy place isn't when you're lying about sexual harassment and lying about this undetectable smear campaign. That's not your happy place when you thought you had won and you thought Justin Baldoni wouldn't fight back so hard, which is what your sources have said.
In what can only be described as one of the most awkward publicity stunts of the year, she decided that the best way to make people forget about her lawsuit was to roll up her sleeves and start slinging donuts at a local bakery. Because, of course, nothing screams relatable like a multi-millionaire actress casually working a shift like she's been there all along. But here's the problem. Nobody bought it. Instead of a heartwarming celebrity being just like us moment, the internet immediately called it what it was: a desperate attempt to distract from her legal drama. People weren't talking about her work ethic or her supposed humility. They were talking about the fact that she was handling food with no gloves, no hairnet, and a whole lot of PR desperation. Twitter had a field day roasting her for it. Blake Lively is out here acting like a struggling college student while living in a $20 million mansion, one user wrote. Another chimed in, "If you think this isn't staged, I have a bridge to sell you." The verdict? Blake's attempt at down-to-earth charm ended up looking like a corporate-approved influencer stunt gone terribly wrong.
I cannot get into the layers of how that is exactly how bullies operate. If you've ever dealt with a bully, if you've ever seen bullying.
And where was Ryan Reynolds in all of this? Nowhere. Not a peep. No clever Instagram caption. No witty Deadpool-style remark. Not even a half-hearted proud of my wife post. Just radio silence.
You're telling me you creating this character in this Disney Marvel superhero movie where you mock him, threaten him, tease him, make fun of him, and then ultimately kill him?
Coming from a man who can turn anything into a viral marketing moment, that silence is loud. Ryan has built his entire brand around being effortlessly cool and self-aware, which is exactly why he's steering clear of this PR nightmare.
It's just a joke. You don't get it? You're thin-skinned if you're upset about it. That is how insane this is.
He knows that supporting a cringy publicity stunt will only drag him down with it. And if history has taught us anything, it's that when Hollywood stars start making desperate PR moves, the smart ones start backing away. Fast. Now, let's talk about the real reason Ryan might be done with this entire fiasco: the lawsuit itself. Blake's whole case is based on the idea that she's the victim of an undetectable smear campaign. Let's break that down for a second. Undetectable, meaning no proof, no evidence, just vibes. It's like saying you lost a fight against an invisible opponent who just so happens to conveniently disappear whenever someone asks for receipts.
Blake Lively has proven, Ryan Reynolds has proven to be actually the smartest in the room and was likely manipulating her.
Ryan Reynolds is a marketing genius. This is a man who sold an entire gin company off of nothing but memes and sarcasm. He knows how to craft a compelling narrative, and this is the equivalent of trying to sell a broken toaster by calling it mystically non-functional. Nobody is buying it, and Ryan reportedly hates how stupid this PR strategy is. While Blake's team is trying to sell a fairy tale about an invisible enemy out to destroy her, Ryan is probably somewhere shaking his head, wondering why they didn't at least come up with something believable.
I felt like it was very aggressive, I agree, and I can't fault somebody for wanting to stick up for their partner, but there were parts of it as I was reading it, I couldn't help but feel like it was a bit petty.
With some insiders say he's actually embarrassed by how this is playing out. And can you blame him? He spent years carefully curating his public image, and now, thanks to Blake's lawsuit, his name is being dragged into something that sounds like a bad episode of Law & Order. If the PR moves don't get better, don't be surprised if Ryan starts making some moves of his own, ones that don't include Blake.
All hell broke loose. She claims he sexual harassed her, and then by the time they premiered the movie, they weren't even speaking to each other. She made him stay in the basement, and Ryan Reynolds turned on him too. And then she claimed that he unleashed a bad PR campaign against her.
Because if there's one thing we've learned from Hollywood scandals, it's that self-preservation always wins. And right now, Ryan looks like a man who is quietly planning his escape.
You see, she worked at a donut shop to surprise all of her fans. Fans? Where are you? Where are you? So let's get into it.
If you've Googled Blake Lively lately, you might have noticed something a little off. Instead of lawsuit drama, accusations, or legal updates, and if that doesn't scream Hollywood PR manipulation, I don't know what does. Let's be real. Blake didn't wake up one day and decide she needed a side hustle frying up crullers. This was a calculated move, and it's straight out of the SEO playbook.
And I wonder why, like, narcissistic women, they do this. It just seems as though, I'm thinking, because it's something they can control, like they can control, like, the cooking and the ingredients is something they have agency over.
When celebrities get into hot water, their PR teams scramble to flood the internet with feel-good fluff so that actual news gets buried under layers of meaningless content. It's like throwing glitter over a crime scene and hoping nobody notices the body. Suddenly, every time someone searches for Blake, instead of lawsuit updates, they're hit with headlines like, Blake Lively's adorable day making donuts. Fans love it. And why Blake Lively's surprise bakery visit is the sweetest thing you'll see today.
It's just deranged. It's nonsensical. Like, fire the whole PR team. It's dumb.
This isn't clever. This isn't strategic. This is PR desperation on a flaming garbage truck. And the fact that Blake's team thought this would work, it's got to be painful for Ryan to watch. He's spent years crafting an image of effortless wit and strategic brilliance, and now he's attached to this mess, an SEO cover-up so sloppy that even casual internet users can see right through it. And that brings us to the million-dollar question. What's Ryan's next move? If Ryan decides to speak out, it could be game over for Blake's lawsuit. His voice carries weight. He's one of the most beloved figures in Hollywood, and if he publicly distances himself, it'll send a message that even he doesn't buy what Blake's selling. And that could completely dismantle whatever legal strategy she's clinging to.
I don't think that it's here for any legal reason. It's here for public consumption and for the public PR battle, I think.
Think about it. Ryan knows that the second he publicly distances himself, the narrative flips. Suddenly, it's not Blake Lively, the wronged woman in a legal battle. It's Blake Lively loses Ryan Reynolds' support amid lawsuit controversy. That's a headline that changes everything. And for a man who understands PR better than most, it's got to be tempting.
So the argument on Ryan Reynolds' motion to dismiss is that the defamation claim against him was not legally sufficient because it didn't specify enough details.
And let's not forget, if Ryan does walk away, it won't just be about protecting his image. It could be his biggest PR move ever. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves more than a scandal, it's a redemption arc. And if Ryan plays this right, He could go from silent bystander to smartest man in the room overnight. While Blake's team scrambles to keep the donut shop headlines at the top of Google, Ryan could be making moves that completely reshape his public image without lifting a finger.
You didn't say those specific things, and so just as a form of pleading, you didn't plead it properly. And so that was their argument.
So, is a Hollywood breakup brewing? Is Ryan Reynolds about to pull off one of the most brilliantly executed PR exits we've ever seen? If things keep heading in this direction, don't be surprised if we wake up to headlines that say, Ryan Reynolds breaks silence, distances himself from Blake Lively's lawsuit drama. And if that happens, well, Blake's team might need a whole lot more than donut shop distractions to clean up this mess.
Justin's team has responded back with their motion to dismiss, the whole motion to dismiss. I'm losing. This is the motion to, complain anyway.
So, here's the deal. Justin Baldoni is not backing down. If you thought this was going to be a quiet, easy legal battle, think again.
7 Wayfair parties are well below the ceiling of the small group exception, and Reynolds defamed all of them, which makes sense, Kim, right?
The guy is going full force, and his production company, Wayfarer Studios, is rallying the troops. This isn't some tiny skirmish. He's gathering industry support like a captain calling in reinforcements. It's no longer just about the lawsuit. This is a straight-up Hollywood turf war.
I don't think it's a good look, but I do think that it's very powerful to find a quote from around that time frame that kind of illustrates what they are trying to explain, what their belief about Ryan is. I think it's a lot more effective than finding quotes from TED Talks from years ago to try to prove their point when we're looking at something that is actually relevant to the timeline of this case.
But Justin Baldoni is not coming slow too. And let's be honest, odds are in his favor.
The way that he has painted this does not really help the case when it comes to defamation. It's a very interesting argument. I will be very interested to see how the judge rules on this.
Now, Hollywood loves a good drama, but what it loves even more is power dynamics. And right now, the power seems to be shifting. Blake's team is looking like the underdog in this battle, and it's not just a couple of online trolls calling them out. Word is spreading, and Hollywood insiders are starting to take sides. And let's just say Blake's team isn't exactly winning the popularity contest. It's like a high school prom all over again, except, with billion-dollar brands and career-making moves on the line.
I believe Ryan makes true statements, but the way he phrases it, or he's had this nice guy, I don't know where they get this nice guy from. He has this nice guy joking persona that they don't take it seriously. It's not real.
But here's where it gets really juicy. Ryan Reynolds' team is watching this all unfold like it's a Netflix series. They're not just sitting back and letting things play out. Nope. They're keeping a close eye on how this is going. Because let's face it, this is bigger than a legal battle at this point. Hollywood is a business, and if Blake becomes a liability, Ryan might be the first one to jump ship. After all, Ryan's empire isn't built on messy, it's built on strategic. If Justin Baldoni ends up being the smarter choice, we could be seeing Ryan make a move that shocks the industry.
The only thing that would really make a settlement possible would be an apology, a public apology. But whether or not Blake Lively would be willing to do that in the Lively parties remains to be seen. I can't see that happening anytime soon.
Now, let's talk about what's coming next. Hold on, because if these rumors are true, Ryan Reynolds could be about to make the biggest business decision of his career. He's known for making smart, calculated moves, and this is definitely the moment where he's going to have to pick his side. Will he distance himself from Blake publicly, or is he waiting for the perfect moment to make his move? Hollywood loves a good dramatic pause, so maybe Ryan is just biding his time until everything shakes out. But let's not forget, time is money. And every day this drama continues, the stakes get higher. But hold on, what if the lawsuit completely fails? What if everything Blake is fighting for crumbles in the court of public opinion? Could her career take a massive hit if this doesn't pan out the way she expects? It's already starting to look like the PR games are getting pretty obvious, and there's only so much the public is willing to swallow. Hollywood's reputation is built on image, and if Blake can't keep her story together, she might find herself fighting an uphill battle for the rest of her career.
He can't take the joke because he's thin-skinned. And we see this is what bullies do. If you can't take their joke, their mean dig, their horrible bullying, well, then you're thin-skinned.
Meanwhile, Ryan's got a very different set of problems to deal with. He's one of the smartest players in Hollywood, and let's face it, he's too smart to get caught in a mess like this for long. If I had to bet, he's already working on his exit strategy. Whether it's privately distancing himself or making a calculated public announcement, Ryan knows how to handle this with a finesse that could leave everyone else in the dust. But here's the big question, the one we've all been waiting for: what's actually going to happen? Is Ryan Reynolds going to ditch Blake Lively to save his career? Or is he secretly supporting her behind the scenes? Trust me, he's not the type of guy to sit back and let things play out without some kind of plan in place. This is Ryan Reynolds, after all. He's always 3 steps ahead. And if you want to keep up with all the latest Hollywood drama, like this video and subscribe to the channel. This story is far from over.